Did you know that there's an entire site that's built around custom Hearthstone cards? And in this video, we're going to showcase the very best ones. Let me know what you think is the best one and subscribe. Our first card is Molecular Farseer from Pete Bar for Forged in the Barrens. This is a 1-mana 1/3 elemental for Shaman with a battle cry. If you play an elemental next turn, draw a card. Now, considering that this would be released in Forged in the Barrens, generally speaking, this card, because it's delayed, is super dependent on you having an elemental the following turn. This card is probably just not going to be good enough for an elemental shaman. They did end up printing Wailing Vapor, which is almost a better version of this because you would almost rather have something that's tempo oriented than just a 1/3 generally. So I don't think this card would actually see a lot of play. That being said, I do think the battle cry on this card could be used in something that's not super tribe specific, but I do like the effect a lot and it's a pretty neat idea. Next, we have Lichborne Knight, which is from King Forever and United in Stormwind. This is a 3-mana 3/3 neutral minion with the keywords Rush and a Death Rattle. Summon 1/1 copies of all minions killed by this. Considering this would be released in United in Stormwind, I don't think this card would see a lot of play just because a lot of the decks in the meta that was formed was just hand-based. Now, that being said, I do think this card actually has a lot of potential. Any class that wants to buff this probably has a way to utilize this. I do think this is slightly too slow for standard. I think I would make it maybe a 3-mana 4/3 and it would probably be slightly better, but I think it's still a little bit weak. Next, we have Chest Familiar from the Arcanist in Sylvanas Academy. This card is a 2-mana 2/2 neutral minion. Whenever you discover a card, destroy this and keep all 3. If this card was released in Sylvanas Academy, I don't think it would see play because this is a little bit too value oriented. Now, I do think in one of the following expansions, Forged in the Barrens, this card could actually see some play because the meta slowed down a little bit. I think overall though, this is the coolest card I've seen so far. It's very unique and I like the idea that it consumes itself once you actually gain the effect. Next, we have the Laziest Peon by Friendly Shadow, and apparently this was released in Madness at the Darkmoon Fair, but on the card itself, it has the Forged in the Barrens emblem. I'm gonna go with Forged in the Barrens because Peon was also introduced in Forged in the Barrens, so we'll base it on that. The Laziest Peon is a 2-mana 1/1 battle cry. Upgrade your hero power a bit. I'm too lazy to fully upgrade it. The card creator also showed us the upgraded hero powers, which is Armor Up for 3 armor, Totemic Call for a random totem with +1 health, Dagger Mastery with a 50% chance to give it +1 attack. That one doesn't seem that great of an upgrade and seems rather tilting. Maybe change the design to just do a 1/3 dagger. That seems a little bit better. The hero power for Paladin is to summon a 2/1 Silverhand Recruit. Shapeshift is +2 attack this turn rather than just +1. Life Tap is draw a card and take 1 damage rather than 2. Fire Blast is deal 1 to 2 damage. I don't really like that. Maybe like deal 1 damage. Maybe just make it 1 mana. That sounds a little bit better. The idea of doing 1 to 2 damage is super tilting and I hate looking at it. Priest gets restored 3 health instead of 2. Demon Claws becomes gain +1 to 2 attack this turn. Listen, again, you don't want this randomness. I don't even know how to make the Demon Hunter one better, but you don't want 1 to 2. Just make it 2. It arguably is fine. Ew, Steady Shot for sure is not okay with that. The random element just sounds super tilting. I don't really like the aspect of it. Overall, the card is extremely interesting. I like the idea of the very small incremental in power for your hero power. Obviously, you want your hero power to be useful, but not just super overpowered. The randomness on a couple of those I would not want at all. I think that's a super horrible design. I think the card is super cool and I wouldn't mind to see it in Forged in the Barrens because I think it would actually see somewhat play. This is Goblin Mime by Rarran. It says Fracture in Alterac Valley, but I'm pretty sure this is from Darkmoon Fair just because it's a mime and it has the Darkmoon Fair emblem at the back of the card. This is a 1-mana 1/2 Warlock minion. Battle cry, return to your hand the next card you discard. I would maybe word it battle cry the next card you discard, add it to your hand. I really like the effect of this card. It's a good 1-drop for Warlock and it doesn't feel nearly as bad when you discard a card that you don't want to. But the question is this worth to actually being played in a discard Warlock deck when this is taking up a card slot anyways? That's the real question, and I don't know if it is. If this is made for Darkmoon Fair, I don't even think it would see play. I'm gonna go with I don't think it's good enough. Maybe a 1-mana 1/3 is a little bit better, but I really think the effect is interesting and I would like to see it printed at some point into Hearthstone. Next, we have Dark Lurker Foom by JC Stake for Fractured Alterac Valley. Now, I would say this is a different expansion, but I don't know what that is. A 3-mana 3/4 Murloc legendary for Shaman. Start of game. If all minions in your deck are Murlocs, enter Fin form. The hero power that you receive at the start of the game is Fin Fang for 2 mana, add a random Murloc to your hand. So this replaces the totem one for this. This is a very interesting effect. I don't think this would be played in current Hearthstone in Fractured Alterac Valley. It's probably a little bit too slow considering that Murlocs aren't super powerful right now. Maybe at some point, this card might actually see enough of a slow meta to really see play. I just don't really see when. Like, they would have to print a lot of good Murlocs just for this to be worth it. It is definitely a pretty good way of pushing a Murloc Shaman archetype that they somewhat push every now and again. I think this card is really cool. I just think it's really hard to balance it for it to actually see play without being obnoxious. The start of the game effect is really hard to balance in a game like Hearthstone. Next, we have General Sylvanas, which is made from Shoeman Band for Dark Moon Fair. A 7-mana 5/5 Hunter legendary. Battle Cry. Destroy a minion, and if you corrupt this, take control of it instead. Ooh, so they use the mercenary, sorry, which is kind of cool. This card's actually really interesting. This is a very hard card to corrupt. For a 7-mana 5/5 to destroy a minion might actually see play just because it's pretty good to get tempo on board and just kill a big threat. And Hunter usually lacks a good way to destroy a very big minion, so I kind of like this. I do think it's a little hard to actually get this corrupted, and it would really depend on what cards are higher than 7 mana. But at the time this would be printed, we had Guardian Animals, we had in a Grand Slam. Maybe this could see play. It might be a little bit too slow. I can maybe see this as a 6-mana 5/5 destroy a minion. Might be too good at that point, but I really like the effect of this card. I think it's really interesting, and it's a great way to showcase what Sylvanas used to do, but with a new, fresh look to her. Painter Apprentice is a card made by Thestalot in Sylvanas Academy. It's important to note that this card stays neutral no matter what, so I guess we'll see what this actually does. A 3-mana 2/2 neutral minion. Battle Cry. Draw a card based on your class. I'm gonna base this off of how good this card would have been in Sylvanas Academy, and for the rest of the time it's in Standard. For Shaman, it's draw an overload card from your deck. I could actually see this being played in Sylvanas Academy. It would actually give Shaman a much needed draw at the time. This might have actually birthed a brand new archetype just based on the card effect alone, so it's pretty decent. Rogue, draw a combo card from your deck. I don't really think Rogue needs this considering that they just have so much inherent draw in their class already. Like Secret Passage compared to this, you don't really need this kind of card, but maybe it could see play. Draw a Divine Shield minion from your deck. This one's a little bit more hit and miss. I think if you're tutoring a very specific Divine Shield minion, maybe this is good enough. I'm not against this. This could be fine. Draw a choose one card from your deck for Druid. At the time of Sylvanas Academy, probably not worth it. Warlock is draw a demon from your deck. I don't think this one is actually that good. I don't know when you would ever want to do it. Maybe just like take this only decks, but I think there's better ways of doing it. Mage gets draw a spell damage minion from your deck. Again, not super optimistic on this one. I think Mage just has Cramp Session, which is just strictly better at the time, and don't think this would really save Mage from playing a spell damage archetype. Painter Apprentice, which is drawing a healing spell from your deck. I think when it was released in Sylvanas Academy, probably not, but I will say during Forge of the Barons, this card is very good. Draw an Outcast card from your deck. This card's good, but I don't think Demon Hunter actually need a draw in Sylvanas, and they never really need a draw afterwards, so it probably wasn't necessary. Overall, I really like the idea of this card, and I think it's very hit and miss on what cards are in the core set, but this card could just be a perfect thing for like a core set or just a basic set because it just fits a role of a bunch of different archetypes. The last card is Imprisoned Horror, which is from Goth, released in Ashes of Outland. This is a 2-mana 2/2 neutral minion, Imprisoned Horror. Dormant for 2 turns. You could target this while it's dormant. This card's pretty cool. I like the idea that you can target your own dormant minion, but your opponent can't. I think the only real issue with this card is what do you want to do with a 2-mana 2/2 dormant minion? If you're planning to buff it, you're basically putting it into a minion that has no tempo, which is almost the same thing as laying a spell on nothing for that specific turn. The spells you're casting on this have to be very, very powerful, which I don't think generally you're going to get on a 2-mana 2/2. And by the time you draw this later in the game, it's not going to be very strong. I just think the card is very weak. I really like the effect on this. I wish they would explore this kind of design more, but yeah, I think it's just very weak. Maybe at 1 mana, it's good enough. A 1-mana 2/2 dormant, maybe that's fine. I was finished making this video, and then I went to go look at the all-time list for Hearthstone, and a brand new challenger has entered the scene with Crystal Horn Prowler, a 2-mana 2/3 beast druid minion. Your hero gains 1 extra attack from all sources. This card isn't necessarily super strong, but I think with all of the effects that they printed in United and Stormwind to actually promote a hero power druid, this card could find a place. Now, I would make this card a 1-mana 1/3. I think that would be much better for the class. It's going to be a little awkward to use 2 mana just for this effect, but man, at 1 mana, this card would be pretty cool. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you ended up enjoying it. Let me know if you want more card custom stuff and we can do it. You look fantastic.